Good afternoon, everyone. We are FreeSpirit Fabrics. We are here today with an Inspired By. We have Anna Maria Horner with us, and she is going to be here talking about Bloomology by Monica Forsberg. And Anna, I don't know if I pronounced her name quite right, but
That's how I say it. So
okay. We welcome all of you for coming today. It's been a little while since we've done an Inspired By. We welcome all our makers and quilters. We hope that you're tuning in to view today. And if you're not viewing today, if you're viewing in the future, we're happy that you're here with us. If you have any questions as it relates to FreeSpirit Fabrics, know that you can find us at freespiritfabrics.com for any questions, or reach out to your local retailer for any questions on any fabrics that you may have as they relate to FreeSpirit. So I know that I'm in beautiful Charlotte, North Carolina today, and I know that Anna Maria is in Nashville.
roughly,
What?
yeah, Franklin,
Yeah.
Tennessee, to be specific.
And beautiful weather here. We hope that you are all enjoying your fall as we get into this new season. We're all excited. I know that I always enjoy the fall. So if you have any questions, please put them in. We will try to answer any questions that you have as we're going through this presentation today. And please be aware that there is going to be a nationwide emergency alert. I believe it's going to be at around 2:20 today. And I've moved my phone and everything out of the room, so hopefully we won't be interrupted. I know Anna's done the same, but if you get alerted while we're on, just know that we all know it's coming.
Yeah, and that has no direct relationship to us being live talking about fabric.
Exactly. So again, we're here to talk about Bloomology. I'm gonna turn the screen over to Anna momentarily. Just want to let everyone know we're talking about Bloomology by Monica Forsberg for Conservatory Craft, which is what Anna Maria is the curator for. And this collection is shipping in March of 2024. So it's coming up soon. And if you see anything today that you like, please reach out to your local retailer and let them know that you want them to order this fabric. So without further ado, Anna, I am going to switch on over to you.
Awesome.
Hello. Let me see. Where are you? I got to get rid of myself and then make you.
It could be like Brady Bunch, and it could be both of us.
Well, they don't really like to always see me. So
Here's the story.
that's right.
Well, I love seeing you, and you have a gorgeous quilt behind you too.
There you are. There you are.
I have a hello. I have the beautiful quilt behind me too, but the virtual one, actually the color probably is more accurate to real life than what you can see in the screen behind me. So as Sharon said, I'm Anna Maria Horner, and my relationship to the conservatory fabrics that you see come across the sales table when you're working with your reps is that I collaborate with a handful of artists that I have admired for years to create fabrics for quilting. So I introduced conservatory in 2018. And Monica is one of the artists that I have been working with since that time. And Monica is a really good example of what I'm looking for when we make selections of conservatory artists to work with. And that is a unique and original sensibility and palette, and it's quintessentially her. Like, I think that Monica has the style of work that once you're familiar with it, you would kind of recognize it anywhere. And no one is just like Monica. And so my job, because the artists for conservatory aren't quilters, they're not necessarily in the industry as so many of us fabric designers are, where we also have either ancillary businesses that have quilt patterns, or we teach quilt making, or we're doing sewing. I know Monica does some handcrafts that her mother taught her when she was young, and she does embroidery. And you can kind of see that sensibility in some of her drawings in terms of like the focus on details. But by and large, the conservatory artists are chosen for their art. And then it's my job to sort of take that art and translate it into something that's really beautiful and usable and meaningful for quilt making. So I've taken that kind of nearly 20 years of experience now of doing both sides of the quilting and the designing, and added that to the artwork for the conservatory designers. So Bloomology is so absolutely exactly why I love Monica. This collection feels a lot like walking around inside Monica's head, I'm guessing. She has a very wicked sense of humor, so I would imagine there's probably some sneakier things lurking behind the flowers in Monica's actual head. But for those of you that have been following the conservatory collection since we introduced them in 2018, you can see we've tried a few different things. We've tried some artists that are not still creating collections for us, and we have tried different launch periods. We've tried different amounts of fabrics, and we've really settled on the designers that seem to like very regularly give us a great dose of color and exactly their look. And Monica is one of those designers. And while she does a lot of kind of, I would call it juvenile, not because it's necessarily super baby, but while she does a lot of juvenile type illustration, book illustration work, lots of other product design that surrounds kind of like youthful product lines, her florals are something that I think are so special because they have this sort of like folk feel, but they're not exactly like folk art that you would see sort of like replicated in lots of other lines. She has her own edge. Monica is Swedish born and lives in London with her husband, Matt, who's an incredible artist, and she has 2 sons that are growing rapidly. But it's Monica's powers of observation and then the filter that she puts those through that we have really focused on in Bloomology. And I want to go through all the pieces with you. I was trying to, this is the entire stack of Bloomology. It's so gorgeous just in terms of palette and texture. I think the interesting thing, we use the word texture a lot when we're talking about quilting, and I'm getting really nerdy about some of these words that I use because I'm in the midst of writing a quilting book. But when we talk about texture in quilting fabrics, it's not the same as talking about texture in a painting, right? Like, because if we were talking about texture in a painting, you know, we can imagine that we would touch this painting and we would actually feel the texture. Well, when we touch these fabrics, they all feel exactly the same. They feel amazing, but they all feel exactly the same. But it's that sort of the way that the marks are made and the art and the scale that they're made and how high contrast it is. For instance, like this has almost no contrast. It's just a very subtle florals. And this has very high contrast between those light flowers and the dark background. All those sorts of things kind of give us an idea of texture. And it's kind of like this subliminal idea that if we touch it, we might feel the relief of all the forms that we're looking at, right? So just to get to a little art word nerdy on you, the reason I bring that up is because in this collection for Monica, we went a little smaller scale than normal. We kind of sit her a little bit medium scale because her flowers are so fun, but then there's these sort of secondary small details that we don't want to lose if it gets too tiny. And so we've always kind of kept her in this mid to large size. But I thought, let's look at Monica's florals really diversely in terms of their palette. Let's diversify the scale and let's really diversify the texture so that because these collections are pretty concise. I think we only have 14 pieces. And so I really want to achieve a lot in just those 14 pieces in other words, like I want to be able to make just about an entire quilt with those pieces and still give you like lots of interest. So I organized all these pieces for you to look at, tiny to large. So first we're starting with this Dizzy print. It just looks like a bunch of little spinning flowers, but they create a beautiful field, a very consistent color. So no matter where or how you cut that up, it's going to be beautiful. And this one kind of moves from plum to blues with the little dashes of green and coral. And then this one moves. I love this one. It's like just a very retro kind of olive green sort of citrus flower with lots of turquoise and greens. And again, little pops of coral. So that one's, I don't know. I think I might have had some bed sheets as a young girl.
Yeah, it's really pretty.
Yeah. So every piece in this collection is very concise and easy to present because there's two of every single one. And in general, kind of a warm one and kind of a cool one.
Mhm.
And then this is called Spangled. Now, Spangled originally, actually, I was tentatively working on a holiday collection with Monica's stuff, and we had this set aside for holiday. It was very sort of festive. It sort of looked like, lots of bokeh light blurs from tree lights or something. It's just almost like they were all lit up and different little shadows and lights were appearing everywhere. We shelved the holiday line and I decided to sneak it in to Bloomology because it's floral without being like overly floral. It sort of has, it kind of is where stars meet flowers. So I thought that was a nice kind of texture difference with lots of little pointy edges. And then this piece, the two pieces that I just showed you, I really didn't change much at all except for their colorations. And this is another one. We call this Breeze because there's such beautiful movement in this fabric. And now that we're getting a little bit bigger in scale, I want to open it up to show you. So if you're looking at the selvage of this fabric, it really sort of does these very uniform selvage to selvage, almost like a DNA kind of twist of vines, but the way that the flowers move, it almost looks like it's kind of seaweed underwater. It looks like it's blowing, or sorry, not the flowers, but the leaves. It looks like it's blowing in the breeze. And this one is exactly the colors that I found it in. And I'm pretty sure that this is the one that's the original colors. I thought it was so beautiful. It's almost like it used to be a different color. And it kind of got dip dyed in this sort of like candy, guava sort of color. I just love how it looks almost like it's over dyed in that palette. And then we did another palette that I call Neapolitan because it's like, it reminds me of chocolate ice cream and dark chocolate ice cream with sprinkles. And who's hungry? Now we're all hungry. But I love this one too for the contrast that it offers.
It's really beautiful.
Yeah, it's a really fun repeat, and for scale, it's still not huge, right? So each of these little ovals is probably only about 2 to 3 inches high.
Yeah.
But if you're a fussy cutter, as I know a lot of you are, that's a really fun one. I think they make a really cool shirt too.
That would.
So then we're kind of growing literally and figuratively into flowers. And this one originally definitely started in Monica's library as a much larger floral, but I thought it would be interesting to see it smaller. So I call this one Headdress. And as soon as you say that, you're like, oh yeah, I see it. Like all those flowers sort of, I don't know, they almost remind me of like Cheryl Tiegs or Farrah Fawcett. Like if you can imagine that those flower circles are the faces, they sort of have this like billowing out on both sides. It's uniform. It reminds me of like a headdress or something, or like a Vegas girl that has like big, feathers on her head. But it's a really, really fun meandering pattern. In fact, I think I was going to call it meandering, but I just called it headdress. But a very nice regular dose of that light colored flower. I am so picky. This one has a very preppy coloration too. I love that hot pink and the jade green. And it's not quite black and not quite navy. It's somewhere in the middle. And then this one just really plays beautifully into like the blue orange color story, which is a really nice and popular combination. I was going to say about this one, because it is so high contrast, and again, it has a different texture from a distance, kind of the only thing you're really going to see are those light flowers. These tinier details get lost. And so I'm really careful when we're designing high contrast prints, that they're very evenly spaced across the field. So sometimes they create such secondary lines in the fabric. If you decide to use a big cut of it in a dress or something, when you look at it, you feel like you're falling off your chair. So, and then this one is getting a little bit bigger in scale, but a much more soft, kind of less contrasty floral. This is called Mosaic. I named it that because every little nook and cranny between those vines and flowers and leaves is really packed in with other little secondary kind of flower buds, which it just reminded me of like really artistic mosaics where every little spot is kind of covered with a piece. But again, they have, this would play really beautiful into a blue-orange story. This would play really beautifully into, a plum and golden story. Again, like the overall is so pretty in terms of what happens on the entire fabric.
Really beautiful.
She's so expert at that balance of forms, and like vines are her language for sure. And they're not little skinny, whispery vines. They're like really hefty, which I love. And these are called Cameo. I am absolutely in love with these.
Yeah, those
so
are pretty.
Cameo is one that kind of reflects, again, like sort of what my job is and what my role is in conservatory. So this flower was one of many flowers in a series that she did that really just looked like portraits of flowers. So they were all just sort of on their own, sort of different species. It's a fun guessing game with Monica's art to try and work out like, what flower, because they're also imaginary looking, like they look like that she made them up. But then if you're someone that's a gardener or you're really into flowers and different species, it's really fun to look and see like, oh, I think she was looking at a morning glory, or this must be based on a pansy.
Yep.
I think this one looks like it was based on a peony, just in terms of the size and shape. But she was doing a lot of different floral portraits, and she was naming them after the species and posting them on her social media. And I just fell in love with them. And so originally this was going to be all those different species, like lots of different flowers, but I just liked this shape so much that I wanted to kind of set it in that oval. And so what I did, again, talking about texture, I sort of, instead of just giving it a solid oval or circular background, I gave it these skinny points. And I did that to kind of mimic and go back to the skinny points that are on these leaves. So I almost sort of took her exact sort of like the exact edges of some of these outer leaf points and just turned it into the edges of that background. So that's kind of my job, basically get in there and meddle.
Right.
Like I don't need to make any, oh, there it is.
There it is. We hear it.
It's coming on me. It doesn't matter if you have your phone off or not. Does it?
Well, my phone's in the other room and I can hear it.
Oh, that was smart. That was it. Okay, good job, federal government. You did it.
Exactly.
Sorry, everyone. I, like an idiot, just thought the federal government can't break through my silence notifications. But they can.
They
oh
can.
My God. Maybe this is scary. That's another podcast for another day. So yeah, basically like all the art that I need is already existing in, her collections. And sometimes I try not to interrupt it too much, but sometimes again, like it creates this outer edge on these little ovals that almost has this sort of ICAT feel in terms of how they come together. And I really love this color version. So
it's really pretty. I think you're right. I think it was a peony because when I look at the leaves, that's what it looks like.
Yeah, same. It does. Yeah.
It's really pretty.
Speaking of specific flowers, we actually named one for you. So this is our biggest scale. In fact, you've seen a slow growth of scales. This actually jumps big. So, well, I'll say big. This is like medium scale for mine, but this is simply called hydrangea. And it really breaks the hydrangea into these fun little stylized shapes and leaves and kind of a young plant and mature leaves as well. And then again, I'm just sort of taking lines that she already has in her original art in the hydrangea and kind of echoing that in the background, which gives it a really lovely secondary pattern. And Monica experiments with lots of different marking tools. She uses gouache, she uses marker, crayon sometimes, colored pencil, digital. She does it all, but I really like the kind of, I it's almost sort of, it's probably hard to tell on these screens, but it's almost a bit of a kind of a crayon line that has some texture to it that's drawn in the background. So this couple here, this happy couple of two different hydrangea colors really sort of leads the show in the entire Bloomology collection. When we were discussing the title, I told her that, I'm like, what's the name of a flower scientist? Because I feel like, both of us, she and I, because we love flowers so much and just approach them so differently. I'm like, I was joking. I was like, what's that called again? A bloomologist, so like, no, it's not called a bloomologist, but we thought that we're bloomologists. And so we named the collection Bloomology. So
I like
but
that.
that's all the pieces. And I wonder if we might switch, because I do have the quilt behind me. I will say that the quilt design is really, I can stand up and show it to you on the off chance that it looks better, different, or whatever, just so you can see the scale compared to the digital version that Sharon has behind her. I will say that this entire quilt for me is really, and of course in my studio, I can't get that far back unless I go across the room, but it's really a color study of the collection. I really wanted to have some medium and large and tiny pieces, just like in the collection of fabrics itself. You can see how beautiful that breeze works as a border. All the way out to the edges, and it's not so fussy of a border that you would have to think about mitering it, which is always good news. So
Yes.
really just based on these blocks here, and they just repeat all the way around. Sometimes there's more subtle things in the center of the blocks, and then other times there's more feature things in the center, and then they just kind of change their color tune as they go towards the center of the quilt. Now you might be asking yourself or asking me, hey Anna, where'd that bright yellow fabric come from? Well, I'm glad you asked. So with these more concise kind of smaller collections, it's a really wonderful opportunity when you are making quilts and you want a little bit more, I hesitate to use the word pop because maybe we're tired of it, but I will. If you want highlight or a pop of color in there to really just sort of like wake up the palette or give it just some accentuation, I would say that like the collection as a whole kind of has this whole a very beautiful like continuous from pinks and plums and berries and corals into like a little bit more citrusy tones and into the blues. There are no really true reds. There's a few true greens. Most of the yellows are kind of acidic and more citrusy green. So for the quilt, which is, it's a free PDF, right? That we have on, will be on FreeSpirit's website.
Yes, it will.
The quilt pattern. Okay. So that's always great news. I decided to go ahead and play into my Love Always collection because guess what? Some of these colorations for conservatory, a large part of them, I have something to do with. So no surprise, they all work really beautifully with Love Always, particularly out of the Love Always, particularly those prints that are more tonal in Love Always. So the lace print we use in the quilt in the mango-y yellow color. We also use the pink one. And but like for other projects, there's blue and coral, and then the in towns make really great little blenders. And I also use this little in town in the sky colorway. I just thought it was so pretty.
It is
For collection. Like it just, I'm gonna try and hold up like 80 pieces of fabric now, but they just like they work so well.
They do
so well with all of her, even though these are kind of her highlights in the collection. Adding one more layer of tonals and interest worked really beautifully. We also, another great few pieces in the Love Always, that's Licorice, that's from the in town print, are these cathedral prints. They work so beautifully in so many of the conservatory and then all my other core collections. But these are the four guys. So if you want to make quilt kits for this beautiful quilt, It's these four right here that we used in Monica's quilt. So Sharon, I don't know if you want to put you on the main screen and scooch over to the side.
Oh,
And everyone can see
to show the quilt?
Yeah,
Okay.
actually show the digital quilt behind you. It actually is like a really good probably a better color representation
Okay.
of what the
Okay,
quilt
I'm
looks
gonna
like in
scooch
real
to the
life.
side so everybody
Just
can
scooch
see
to the
it.
side. Yeah. So, but you can see that those little kind of sunshiny yellows are really sort of popping, and you know, the rest of it really just works itself right in without making itself overly known. But yeah, so Love Always is a wonderful, even for like some existing conservatory pieces that you might have now from any of the designers, like let's say you only have a few bolts left or lots of bolts left, but not quite, but some key pieces missing. Like Love Always is a wonderful thing to go back and look at and you know, get some of those bolts in that are more sort of blenders, and go back to those original conservatory patterns, because in general, for the last couple of years, those have been free and available. Like you can go back to those original patterns and kind of reissue a kit using some of the Love Always fabrics. It works really well. As a suggestion, not, you know, not directions, just as a little helpful suggestion of ways to sort of stretch key pieces that you might have, but maybe you don't have all of them. So I think that's just about everything that I can think of with this collection. I'm going to be at Quilt Market with Sharon and the gang, showing this collection in person. Of course, since we didn't have spring market, well, this released in July, I think, didn't it?
Yes.
So reps have been out on the road to share it, but if you'll be at market, we're going to have the quilt and then some other really cute samples made with Bloomology for you to have a look at. And once we get to market, there should still be time, probably pretty quick, to order this collection in time for it to arrive in March.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
So Anna, I'm just gonna pop back over here.
Yes, slide
I'm
in front
blocking
of
the beautiful quilt. I'm sorry,
That's
everybody. But one thing we didn't say was the size of the quilt. So the quilt is a 70 by 70. And as Anna Maria already said, that this will be a free pattern on the FreeSpirit website, and it will be up in March. So when the collection starts to ship in March, we will have the pattern up and it'll be ready for you to all start sewing and making. So so Anna, thank you for joining us today. We always love to have you on. So thank you. We appreciate you making the time and coming on with us. And if you are watching today and you saw this collection and you're like, I have to have it, again, reach out to your local retailer, let her know you saw Anna Maria do a presentation today on Bloomology and you would love it if the shop ordered the Bloomology collection because you want to get sewing.
Yes, I have one more thing that I forgot to mention.
Even though
we weren't, you know, we haven't had a chance to have this out at market. FreeSpirit has sent out collections of Bloomology to some really talented makers out there that have been doing gorgeous things. If you follow me on Instagram or Facebook, which is just my full name, Anna Maria Horner, yesterday I posted a stack of the collection, and I also posted some beautiful work that Jody from Tales of Cloth has been doing with paper piecing, and also Sweet Cinnamon Roses has been doing some gorgeous little economy blocks. But it's a really good indication of how beautifully it fussy cuts, and just sort of like I think it really helps to see other things besides the quilt that we see digitally in its patchwork, and like, okay, I get it's kind of mid-range size, but just seeing like how it's cut up and the different ways that those two quilters have used the fabric is really good. So if you go to Tales of Cloth, TALES on Instagram, Tales of Cloth, and Sweet Cinnamon Roses, you can see some of the beautiful things that they've been doing with Bloomology, in case you don't get to go to market and you want to see some other ideas.
Right. I'm glad you brought that up. So thank you.
Yeah, beautiful work, both very talented quilters.
Yes,
they've kind of become our go-to for sending conservatory collections too, haven't they?
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, they do beautiful work, so I don't blame you. So that's awesome. All right. Well, is there anything else, Anna Maria, that you'd like to share?
I can't think of anything in regards to Monica's work. We have one in the hopper for Natalie that we'll be introducing, I guess, in January.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a very pretty collection, and it got really bright and fun for Natalie. And we have another one. I see Harmony out in the world, which is wonderful. A lot of people out there enjoying Carolyn Gavin's debut collection for Conservatory Craft. So be sure to share that and tag Conservatory Craft or tag me on Instagram so that we can see what you're making with Harmony. And we have another collection in the hopper for Carolyn as well. So really enjoy doing this collaboration. But I think
Awesome.
that's it.
Well, thank you for sharing all of that with
Thanks
us.
for inviting me,
Your
Sharon.
studio looks wonderful. Is it always that neat and tidy?
No, I just
Oh.
like shoved.
Oh, so
Like, just
don't turn the
imagine
camera.
here and here, like on the other, like if I move the screen the other way, there's a lot of work in progress.
Yes,
I won't call it a mess. I'll call it work in progress.
yes. I call them all my ideas.
That's
Yeah.
right.
They're all my ideas. You don't want to be in my head.
So many ideas. Yes.
Yeah.
I just realized that your name is a really good one for getting on here and sharing things.
Yes, yes,
Sharon, you're so good at helping us, Sharon.
yes, yes. I sharing everything.
We're just sharing everything, sharing the inspiration. That's what we should call this series.
Oh my gosh, you're funny, Anna. All right, so on that note,
Pleasure sharing with you.
yeah, exactly. Thank you for joining us, Anna. It's always a pleasure. And I love, and I know that everyone that tunes in, we love to hear the background of how the fabrics come to be and the naming and, the whole process that you go through in the end that, a lot of people aren't aware of. So it's always great because it makes you look at the fabric so differently. You look at it and go, oh,
Okay.
it's always a little something more in there.
Yeah.
But again, thank you for sharing with us and taking the time today. And we look forward to seeing Bloomology out in the shops in March of 2024. Can you believe how close we are to that?
No. Was that a direct question? No, is the answer.
So thank you, Anna. I'm going to tune off now for today.
Okay.
Thank you to everyone that joined us. And if you have any questions, you can look to Anna Maria's website, or you can come to the FreeSpirit website as well and reach out and ask any questions that you may have of either of us. So thank you so much, Anna. And we will see you another time. I'll see you at Quilt Market.
See you at Quilt Market. Yep.
All right,
Okay.
bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.